going back to movies with different guys you've worked with, who did you see act and it's like one take type of guy? You're like, how the hell do you do just one freaking take? Like, who was the most ridiculous talent you've seen? And, you know, it's unfair to ask this question because it's not like one or two. You've worked with the best of the best. But who was somebody, like when I talk to guys, you know, I've interviewed some of the guys in the mob movies, some of those guys, everybody's like, well, let me tell you, Marlon Brando, dude, this guy was like something else, right? And you talk to guys that are like the Chris Browns and some of these guys, ushers, who have worked and done something with Michael Jackson back in the days. Dude, one time, this guy's choreography. Who was that guy?
I'm less impressed by that. Being an actor myself, I expect people to come in and do a good job. What I'm really impressed with is work ethic and showing up on time and knowing your lines and just being prepared in those ways. And I will say, and I've been friends with him for 25 or almost 30 years. Leonardo DiCaprio, and I'd been on sets with him before I actually worked with him, and I just never paid attention to this. But working with him, he was always the first guy on set. He knew all his lines.
Really?
He never missed a beat. And for me, you know, that's not always the case. Sometimes the star is the last guy on set, and you're all like on your marks, waiting for them to arrive, and they walk on, and you start. You know what I mean? There was that did not occur with him at all.
I would have never guessed you would have said Leo.
Does that set the tone for everyone? It's like if Leo's here first and he's working hard, like everyone.
It really does. Yeah. When you have guys who are starting to come in later, if they're hungover, if they're not prepared, if they're reading their sides, you know, while they're standing on their mark, if they're holding it up a little bit, it drags a little bit. Right. But having a guy who's so gung-ho, who I've seen before where he's getting dressed while walking to set just because he doesn't want to hold anybody up. So I was very, very impressed with him when I worked with him.
Have you ever had scenes that maybe, you know, wasn't recorded? Like, you know how Christian Bale lost his mind on the audio guy, or whoever it was that's walking back. It's one of the best scenes, by the way, when you see him lose it. There's something, it's like watching a chef lose it. There's something very...
or Bill O'Reilly, fuck it, we're going live!
Yeah, you know, there's something very creative madness, you know, it's cool
like
to see that scientist type of thing, in action. Has that happened where you're on a set and one of the main actors, like there's a slight little movement or adjustment, they just are so sensitive to everything that they lose it?
I mean, I've seen it before where I don't want to name names, but a long time ago, 15 years ago, I did a movie for television. You know, they used to do that, like TV movies, and one of the actors got into a fight with a grip, like a fist fight with a grip over something like that, and I didn't even know what exactly had happened or if there was tension with these guys before, but suddenly they're fighting, and I was just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, work. You can't be doing this. And they got separated, and then it was fine. But I haven't seen anything quite as wonderful as you know, those few instances. You know, also when I started acting, so almost 30 years ago, we heard stories. There was a very famous, and I don't really want to get super graphic, but there were stories about a Sylvester Stallone recording because he was mic'd and went back to his trailer and something occurred and it got recorded. And I never heard the recording, so it could be just like an old wives' tale, but that scared the shit out of me. So anytime there was a microphone anywhere near me, I was like, somebody's listening, somebody's recording this, be careful.
Now, are you still tight with Leo?
Yeah, he's a very good friend.
When is Leo going to settle down? Or is he ever going to settle down and get married?
I don't know. I have no idea.
But by the way, you know, I'm convinced of this. I may be wrong, but I had dinner with a guy named David Herzog, who was a CFO of AIG. And he was there with Bob and Moshe. These are the guys that went and got $183 billion from the government, and then they paid it back and gave $21 billion. This guy was a CFO. So he's like very, very powerful guy in the financial industry. And I said, so, you know, tell me about yourself. Oh, I've been married 27 years. Oh, okay, cool. How many kids you guys got? We don't have any kids. Really? You don't have any kids? You guys, you know, any reason? No, we just chose a long time ago. Our kids was our career. Really? Both my wife and I made our kids, our career, our kids. And that's how we treated it. And both of us have done very well. We run a restaurant and on a golf course, and she manages that, and I do what I do here. I'm like, okay, cool. I think certain people make their career their wife or their kids, and some actually look at it that way.
Do you think that's what's happening with Leo?
First of all, do you think he lacks options? I mean, if he wanted to
0%. This is why we're enthralled by what he's got going on.
But I think the way he just described Leo makes sense to me why he can't do that. Because to give that kind of a commitment, you can't have distractions that you. And anyways, I'm speculating. I'm not his friend. He's his friend. But I'm just thinking certain people that take it to that level. I had a guy I talked to one time, and Greg, his name was this. But this is like 18 years ago. I said, if you were to tell me a few weird things that nobody talks about, that you want to make it all the way to the top, what would you suggest? He says, never get married, never have kids. I said, what? I said, but you're married and you have kids. He said, but I never made it to the top.
I will say, having a wife and kids, the absolute worst place to bring them is to work. It's the worst distraction ever, because if you're here and you're consumed and you're trying to do your job, to have this, a movie set is almost like being at a construction zone. You know what I mean? Like nothing's ever fully built. It's all being presented from one direction, and there's stuff you can't touch and places you can't go, and there's nowhere to sit down sometimes. And to have this idea of like my wife and my kids, the people who I need to make sure they're okay all the time, are taken care of. I've done TV shows where I've brought kids in and gone like, you want to come, you're a PA, you have to work if you're going to be here, and we can have lunch together and all that. But I can't think like, what's my kid doing right now? Where are they? Are they sitting in my trailer watching TV, or I don't know what, you know what I mean? It's a rough place to you really have to be concentrating on what you're doing.
Respect, man. The legacy and the stories of Leo are just insane. I mean, it was first, I think, Jeter, then Clooney. Now Leo is just the freaking man. As far as like,
Leo's been the man for a few decades, though. It's not
correct.
Like it's a new
That's
thing.
why people are, wondering what's next for this guy. But he's that dedicated to his craft, is what you're saying. So you think, like for instance, one of the things that I'm enthralled about with Pat is like his work ethic. But he's married and he's got 4 kids and he's running 2 businesses and he's dealing with all this. Yet he still is the first one in, last one. Like that's. It makes kind of like what you did with Leo. It makes you raise your standards and say, all right, I can't slack off. I got the boss over here doing more than anyone. I mean, that's kind of what you're saying with Leo over there. Do you think his work ethic would be exactly the same if he was married with kids, and that would kind of take away?
I think he would compartmentalize, because I think I have a good work ethic. I just think it's hard like to merge the two. So if you're him, and again, when I did that movie with him, he worked every day. I worked not every day, right? I worked many fewer days than him. So I could bring my family and make sure that I spent a lot of time with them too on the days that I wasn't working. They just couldn't come to work. For him, that's 6 months where he's working every single day. And then on the weekend, he's preparing for next week's work. And at night after work, he's preparing for tomorrow's work. And so I think it is less conducive in that. But I think he would be capable, certainly, of compartmentalizing these things.
Yeah, and I would assume, like, if you're, like, really lighting it up, you're, like, doing more movies and you're taking on more things. Once you have family and you decide to go the next route, then you're a little bit more picky and choosy on what you take and what you don't take. And
he's already pretty picky and choosy. Like, he doesn't have movies coming out back to back to back to back.
Yeah. You look at the list of, do you put him as a top 10 of all time?
I think he's very good, yeah.
Who do you have as, like, if you were to say, I think, in, like NBA, Michael, football, Brady, who you put in your top 5, top 10?
I think Daniel Day-Lewis is really hard to beat as an actor.
3 times, right? Is it a 3-time winner or a 4-time winner?
I don't even know. I just know that he disappears into these roles and he's always compelling, and I really enjoy watching him. Meryl Streep I like a lot. I don't go really too much deeper than that. I just like those two. I think those two are great. And I think Leo's an incredible actor too. But he's my buddy, so I don't want to. I don't want to think of him as that way. Like,
did you have someone that you kind of emulated? You said, "All right, I see what this guy's doing. Obviously, I want to be my own person, and all that stuff. But it's like, all right, cool. Like this guy's doing it. I'm a bigger guy, but I've lost this weight. Who do you try to emulate?"
Well, as of today, I'm just trying to almost figure out who I am now. I've been losing weight for 15 years or closer to 20 years. But like today, I am certainly different than what most people know me as.
Right.
When I was a kid, I didn't see him as a big guy, but I really looked at like guys like Peter Lorre, this old German star, and I just thought like, what an incredible career that guy had. You know, he was in so many different things and played so many different roles, and he was always interesting, and he was like the consummate that guy actor. And that's really the guy who I was like, if I could have a career like that dude, I would be so happy.
Wasn't there a documentary called That Guy?
Probably.
Yeah, there was a documentary. Type in documentary.
On Peter Lorre?
No,
I don't know.
documentary, That Guy. Faces you know, but you don't know the names. There was a documentary called Go Back and just
That
go
guy
to,
who was in that thing.
Yeah, that guy who was in that thing. Yeah, that's a documentary.
If you enjoyed this short clip, click over here to watch another short clip. And if you want to watch the entire episode, the entire podcast, click here.